Let's for a moment, Professor Palshikar, focus directly on Rahul Gandhi. He's been the effective leader of the party since 2013, that's 12 years ago, when he became vice president. Why has he failed to capture the imagination of the country? Why has he failed to win respect as a political leader?
As I said, three reasons if you want schematically. One is this miscalculation about inheritance. That because people think that he has inherited the Rajiv Sonia legacy, everyone in the Congress would follow him. That was a miscalculation. On the other hand, in fact, the Congress people wanted him only as a figurehead to do their own things at the state level. That's one. The second thing is that long kind of party building which is necessary for the Congress could never be taken up by Rahul Gandhi seriously because of his disconnect with party workers. And the third, obviously, is his timing was wrong. As you said, he takes over charge in 2013, though he was General Secretary from 2007 onwards. And it was at that time that Modi arises on the scene. So both Rahul Gandhi's miscalculations, his own limitations, and the time that was against him conspired in a sense to make him a failure.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. 7 months ago, after the national elections, it was widely believed the Congress party was reviving and its future looked bright. Today, after losing Haryana, Maharashtra, and Delhi, Congress is once again considered irrelevant. So today we ask, what's gone wrong? Who is to blame? And is the party capable of taking corrective action? My guest is one of India's foremost political commentators, the chief editor of studies in Indian politics and the co-director of the Lokniti program on comparative democracy, Suhas Palshikar. Professor Palshikar, 7 months ago in June, it was widely believed the Congress was reviving and its future looked bright. Instead, it's lost Haryana, Maharashtra, and Delhi, and once again, it's being widely considered irrelevant. Before we go into details, what would you believe has broadly gone wrong with the Congress party?
When discussing about the Congress, I often keep repeating this couplet from Sahir Ludhianvi, where he says, कहते हैं कि मरता भी नहीं, जब मैं मरता हूं तो कहते हैं जीना होगा. That's the predicament that the Congress has been facing for a long time, that it is about to die, people think, and when it dies or is about to die, people say, no, you have to live on. That's the fate that the Congress has to face currently.
So, in a sense, it's in a situation like that of the living dead.
Not exactly. It is neither living nor dead. It is somewhere in the limbo. It has been trying to revive itself for a long time, and that revival has been incredibly slow.
Okay. In a piece you wrote for the Express newspaper on Wednesday, you said, since 1989, Congress has ceased to be an all India party. It's a multi party at best. Does that mean Congress has shrunk both in terms of reach as well as in terms of relevance?
In reach, yes, it has definitely shrunk a long way from what it was earlier. In terms of relevance, in a sense, it depends on how one looks at the Congress and the politics that unfolds in the country currently. There is no strong opposition. And even if one were, let us say, sympathetic to the BJP, it would still be necessary that there is a strong opposition in the country, and that void needs to be filled. Whether the Congress would fill that void is always a big question. But we do need a party which has reached beyond one state. And, most of our parties otherwise have just one state to themselves. And that is where the, let's say, USP of the Congress comes into play, that while it is not an all India party like it was earlier, it's still a multi-state party. It has presence in so many states that it can constitute an all India opposition.
But you're saying a very important thing. You're saying there is clearly a role for Congress to fulfill. The question is it capable of fulfilling that role?
That question will always remain. The Congress looks upon itself, and I guess that is the mistake that the Congress does. It looks upon itself as a natural all India party which can fill this role. I would argue that the Congress has to earn that role and therefore do something that would ensure that it becomes the true opposition, if not the ruling party.
Let's take Delhi as an example. It's been wiped out in 3 successive Lok Sabha and 3 successive Vidhan Sabha elections. This time, it lost its deposit in 67 out of 70 seats. For Congress, has Delhi become like states like Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and Orissa, states where the party is unlikely to recover?
Yes, it has been observed by many students of the Congress party for a long time that once it loses in a state, it never revives easily or almost never revives. And the states that you mentioned, Tamil Nadu, it has been out of power and out of, in a sense, relevance for such a long time that one can't even imagine the Congress becoming a major party in Tamil Nadu. In West Bengal, same. In fact, in Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal, it is below 5% if you look at 2024 Lok Sabha votes. In UP and Bihar, the two most important states of the country, it is under 10%. In Odisha, it is at least about 10% yet, 13%. And there is a possibility that it might revive, but we don't know. In Gujarat, it is 30% plus, in fact, sometimes 40%. But even then, it has been consistently unable to fight back and push the BJP out of power.
So you're saying that Congress's problem is that in states where it starts to lose, it seems to lack the capacity to win those states again.
Yeah, Telangana, Maharashtra, Karnataka are some exceptions. Rajasthan, of course, has a different type of politics. Therefore, the Congress does make a comeback there every now and then. But otherwise, for a majority of the states, it is just this specter that if the party goes around 10% or less than 10%, it is wiped out.
Let's then, Professor Palshikar, come to the question, what's gone wrong for Congress in greater detail? First, does it have a clear identity and image, or does it simply compete in terms of freebies and welfare policies without really identifying what it actually stands for?
Between 2004 and 2009, or maybe 2014 also, the Congress tried to overcome this identity crisis. Since then, it has failed to capture the moment. It has been talking about Nyay, it has been talking about socially backward classes, socially and economically backward classes, etc. But it is nowhere. It is neither a party of the middle classes nor a party of the poor. In fact, its vote share, if one looks at the survey data, there is a flatness to it in terms of class. It doesn't really belong to any particular class. If the Congress gets 21% vote on an average, then in almost all economic segments of the voters, it's just 19 to 21%. And that is where the point of identity comes in, that it doesn't identify with any particular social segment.
So would I be right in saying that Congress has been able to come up with slogans, and some of those may even have been catchy slogans, but what it lacks is meaningful ideological background?
True. I think the 90s, when the Congress initiated the new economic program, it started becoming clueless about how to balance its social base with its new economic policies. And in 2004, they came up with this, as you said, attractive idea, Aam Aadmi. We know Aam Aadmi because of the Aam Aadmi party now, but let us remember that it was in fact Congress के साथ Congress का हाथ आम आदमी के साथ. So the idea that there is this average Indian, without defining whether it is the poor or the middle class, was Congress's response to the crisis it generated because of the new economic policy. The Congress could not capitalize on it, not because it had lack of ideas, but because it had lack of communication between its top and the ordinary workers. It didn't have an organization to communicate to the voter what it means by Aam Aadmi.
Tell me, in this connection, does the party have the internal organization? Does it have the party workers to give it real strength? Or have its successive defeats meant that the organization has atrophied, perhaps even in places melted away?
Yeah, at one level, the organization is disappearing fast. But at another level, the Congress does have organization in so many states. The question is, does that organization really connect to the imagination of its leadership at the All India level? What has happened is since 1990s, who would join the Congress when the Congress was losing? Obviously, because there was no other political instrument, ambitious career politicians would occasionally join the Congress in the 1990s. And if you look at some top names like Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma, who joins and becomes a Congress representative in 1991, for such people, their upbringing politically is, in a sense, the Rajiv period or post-Rajiv period political upbringing. And therefore, they don't have that ideological anchor which Congress persons would earlier have. For them, it is state politics that matters. Their horizon is state politics. And that is where the problem lies for many of Congress politicians. Good or bad, that's not the point. The point is their horizon is state politics. This national leadership, their imagination of all India identity of the Congress, these are all far too removed things for them. They are in a waiting room, so to say. If the Congress does well, they will board the Congress train. If the Congress doesn't do well, they will board some other train. By 2014, they started boarding the other trains. State by state, if you look at these prominent leaders, and pardon me naming, but take even the case of Jyotiraditya Scindia. He enters politics around his age of 30, says that he vouches by liberal secular ideas of his father. But he doesn't have that imagination, probably, of what liberal secular politics are. So he becomes uncomfortable. When he is uncomfortable, and I am not going into the merits, why he is uncomfortable, etc. He simply doesn't form a different party. If you were a liberal secular, you would form a different party of liberal secular ideas. Instead, he boards a party which is exactly the opposite of what he vouches for. It is this cynical lack of political training among Congress people who joined the Congress in the 1990s that have produced the organizational crisis.
How responsible and how much to blame is Congress for this failure to train its own cadres, its own workers, its own state level leaders? How responsible is Congress for this failure?
Of course, the Congress leadership can't escape the blame. And by Congress leadership, again, the question is in a sense funny. Who is this Congress leadership? Post Rajiv Gandhi, there was a chaos, not just a void, but a chaos. You can't expect a Narasimha Rao or a Sitaram Kesari to really have that kind of party building capacity at the All India level. They just became leaders by coincidence and by, of course, some kind of backdoor manipulating. Sonia Gandhi inherits Rajiv Gandhi's legacy, but that legacy was only emotional. Because Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated, she is respected and she could control the party for the time being. By the time Rahul Gandhi starts inheriting that leadership, there is a miscalculation by his advisors, by Sonia's advisors, that because he is now the son of Rajiv and Sonia, every Congress person would give his or her loyalty to Rahul Gandhi. Therefore, the point is, there was no leadership in the party from 1991 till almost Rahul Gandhi actually starts becoming a leader in his own right, which is much later, not in the 2000s. It is after 2010s.
Let's for a moment, Professor Palshikar, focus directly on Rahul Gandhi. He's been the effective leader of the party since 2013. That's 12 years ago when he became vice president. Why has he failed to capture the imagination of the country? Why has he failed to win respect as a political leader?
As I said, three reasons if you want schematically. One is this miscalculation about inheritance. That because people think that he has inherited the Rajiv Sonia legacy, everyone in the Congress would follow him. That was a miscalculation. On the other hand, in fact, the Congress people wanted him only as a figurehead to do their own things at the state level. That's one. The second thing is that long kind of party building which is necessary for the Congress could never be taken up by Rahul Gandhi seriously because of his disconnect with party workers. And the third, obviously, is his timing was wrong. As you said, he takes over charge in 2013, though he was General Secretary from 2007 onwards. And it was at that time that Modi arises on the scene. The media is sick of the Congress party. And therefore, this idea that Rahul Gandhi and Congress are no good was making rounds among intellectual circles, in media, everywhere. So the impression created was that Rahul Gandhi is an unintelligent person, incapable of leading, can't speak, and then demagoguery becomes the hallmark of leadership. It's funny that in a democracy like India, demagoguery should be seen as an equivalent to statesmanship. That is what happened in 2014. So both Rahul Gandhi's miscalculations, his own limitations, and the time that was against him conspired in a sense to make him a failure.
Let me put one other point about Rahul Gandhi to you. People constantly compare Rahul Gandhi to Narendra Modi, and practically every single time he comes up short. And one point that I frequently heard from people is that Rahul Gandhi fails to clearly, cogently, and convincingly articulate what he wants to say. People say somewhere between the thought and the speech, he stumbles. Is that a fair comment?
As I said, when public speaking becomes the only hallmark of leadership, it becomes a fair comment. In totality, I would say that a leader is not made only by public speeches, though democracy requires public speeches as well. And over a period of time, one should accept that Rahul Gandhi has improved his record as a public speaker as also as a parliamentarian. But yes, I must say that it is a fact, and I said earlier also that he emerges as the leader of the Congress at the moment when Modi is emerging as the counterpart, as the rival, as the challenger at the All India level. In 2024, for example, we found in a survey that Rahul Gandhi's acceptability as possible prime minister was stuck as 27% of the surveyed population. Modi's, on the other hand, remained at 40 plus. And this gap is something that would haunt Rahul Gandhi for a long time.
Well, let me put it like, sorry, please carry on.
Yeah, just one moment. Also, the kind of confidence people probably had that Congress would deliver on the promises was slightly less than what the BJP could inspire among the voters. The Modi Ke guarantee, for example, let me tell you, this Modi Ke guarantee was accepted by 23% people as reliable, whereas job guarantee that Rahul Gandhi was giving was accepted by 17%. So there is a gap. And I think these are small matters if you look at details, but big matters when it compares to the point that you are making, the gap between ideas and communication, what you communicate and what you think. And of course, finally, the third gap or the second gap, the third point is what you deliver in governments when you are in power.
Let me put it like this, Professor Palshikar. Rahul Gandhi has tried for 12 years at least since 2013 when he became Vice President of Congress to become a recognized popular national leader, a man who the country will one day accept as Prime Minister. And he's repeatedly failed. He's gone on yatras. They've caught the attention for a while, but they've disappeared from attention very quickly thereafter. He wears t-shirts, it was remarked upon, now it's ignored. He's even tried to hug Modi in parliament, it was remarked upon, now it's seen as a silly gimmick. Will Rahul Gandhi ever become prime ministerial?
I don't know. Frankly, the way politics is turning, I can foresee a situation where there would obviously be only a multi-party coalition to replace the BJP, if at all. And in multi-party coalition, as we know from experience, there is always a possibility that not necessarily the leader of the largest party would become the prime minister. So, in that sense, I don't know. Prime ministerial is a big question mark because Modi has, in a sense, changed the definitions of what it requires to be a prime minister. As a result of that, probably nobody can replace Modi in terms of those definitions of who is prime ministerial. But if your question is about Congress, let me ask you a counter question. Would it make sense for the Congress party to disinvest in Rahul Gandhi after he has risen so much and then start searching for a replacement? So Congress is in a bind here. It has invested in Rahul Gandhi for a decade. Now it can't reap the harvest, nor can it leave Rahul Gandhi alone.
I hear what you're saying. After 12 years of investing in Rahul Gandhi, it's too late to give up that investment. But on the other hand, let me ask you a different question. At 82, is Mallikarjun Kharge, an elderly and uninspiring man, the wrong choice as party president? Would Shashi Tharoor, with his 10 million fan following on Twitter and his aspirational image, have been a better choice?
I think I would say that not necessarily, because in the Congress, you needed someone who would at least try to organize the party and therefore would have the capacity and the willingness to do the dirty work of talking to different factions, talking to disenchanted Congress persons, and so on and so forth. So it's not only about Twitter charm, it's not only about public charm, but personal equations and the possibility of negotiations. That is where Kharge, after having been elected as president, has not done very badly. And unfortunately, and that is really the real comment on the Congress doesn't have too many such leaders who can negotiate peace among factions, because that is the quality required.
All right, so let me sum up the point you made about Rahul. You don't know whether Rahul will ever become prime ministerial, but it is also too late to change. After 12 years of investment in Rahul, it's going to be very difficult to find a new man and start investing in him. It'll set you back hugely.
Sure, that is what I'm saying. I'm not getting into this question about dynastic politics, etc., because to my mind, they are practically irrelevant in the Indian context.
Let me raise one other concern about Congress. Does Congress have a problem to do with the sort of election strategy it follows? Repeatedly in states like Madhya Pradesh and now most recently in Delhi, Congress refused to ally with other parties in the belief that this was an opportunity to increase its own presence. Does it instead need to accept that defeating the BJP, no matter what the cost, is more important than increasing the number of seats it wins?
Sure. I mean, the latter part is definitely yes, I would argue, and I have been arguing that for the opposition in the country today, defeating the BJP has to be their first priority, because without that, they can't survive. But even otherwise, the thing that we discussed earlier, that the Congress is a multi-party, multi-state party today. Therefore, it has to decide which states it can go alone, fight it out, and win. In Gujarat, for example, the Congress has to win, and there is no one else to ask Congress to share the spoils with it. Whereas in other states like UP, Bihar, Delhi for that matter, it is weakened, and therefore it has to build bridges, because by its own account, coalition politics is going to be the norm for the opposition for another decade. Therefore, the Congress must compromise at every opportunity whenever elections are around the corner.
You know, let me take the example of Delhi and ask you whether Delhi is an example of what I'm talking about. You talked about the need that Congress has in states like Delhi to build bridges. If Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party had allied, their vote share in the Delhi elections would have been greater than the BJP's, and they could have either ensured a hung assembly or at least a very small, slender majority for the BJP. But by fighting separately, they effectively guaranteed a grand win for BJP. Was it a mistake not to ally? Because allying could have kept the BJP in check and under control. Not allying ensured a great victory.
Absolutely, I agree. Though I know that it is easier said than done, the relation between AAP in Delhi and Congress in Delhi being what it is historically. For Delhi Congress persons, it would be a bitter pill. But that is where you have to compromise. I don't know how many seats the Congress would have got through that compromise, but you then get a toehold. So the point that we were making earlier, if you want to expand the party, then you expand it through compromises, step by step, not dramatically, just in one election.
And that is where Congress seems to be unwilling to act. It's unwilling to make those necessary compromises to give itself small gains.
Yeah, in Madhya Pradesh, as the example that you gave earlier, and in many other places, it will be necessary for the Congress to keep the allies with it, ensure that the India bloc not only remains but also expands, and only then, in a sense, there is a possibility for the revival of Congress itself.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Now, in the article that you wrote for the Indian Express on Wednesday, which I referred to earlier in the interview as well, you identified 3 lessons that Congress must learn. Let's briefly touch on each of them. The first is a hard-nosed understanding of what you call its limitations. Can I ask you, what do you mean by limitations in this context?
What I have been talking from right at the beginning, that India, Congress must realize that Congress is no more an all India party as it used to be historically. 1989 has made a lot of difference. 2014 has crushed the party beyond imagination. That is the limitation that the party has to realize. And also the limitation that it doesn't have anyone to match Modi's popularity at the moment.
And in failing to realize and accept this limitation, is it guilty of hubris? Or at least is it digging its head into the sand?
Yeah, I mean, unnecessarily the Congress believes that it can occasionally on its own take on the BJP. So I think that exaggerated idea from its past has to be given up. Congress, in fact, should not live in the 1970s. It should live in the 1990s, when it was a weak party, had to engage in coalitions, had to make compromises. That is the point that I'm making.
Now, second, to say, Congress must identify what you call the proximate voter for the party. First of all, who is the proximate voter for Congress, and why is it important to identify this entity?
For the party, it is up to the party to decide who they want to win over and cultivate as their long-term social base. But if you ask me, I would say that the simple way of identifying the proximate voter is to find out who are likely to be the most staunch supporters of the BJP, and the rest are your proximate voters. Data shows that upper half of the society, caste class together, are more likely to be pro BJP. By definition, therefore, the Congress is left with the lower half, whether they like it or not.
And those are the people Congress should be actively focusing upon.
Actively focusing upon at the ground level, not just in their ideological statements.
In other words, the organization and the party cadres must be making that reach out to them.
Surely, yes.
Thirdly, you say the party must understand how to be different. What exactly do you mean by different? Is it ideology you're talking about?
Broadly, ideology, definitely, because unless you have ideas, you can't counter Modi and the BJP. They have come to power with the help of certain ideas. And unless you distinguish yourself with the ideas that you have, whether it is Aam Aadmi in 2004-9 or Nyay in 2024, these are ideas that matter. But through those ideas, a cogent identity has to be built, which means that your cadres then need to reflect that identity. How is it that you easily succumb to the BJP every time? That's the question the Congress needs to ask itself.
And if I understand you correctly, you're saying from time to time Congress does throw up ideas, Aam Aadmi being one, Nyay being another, but it fails to build a cogent, coherent identity around those ideas.
Yes, these are ideas, as you mentioned, but then the Congress has to translate those ideas into the social profile of its own workers. It has to translate those ideas into the candidatures that it distributes and the governments that it runs. That's the most important thing.
These are huge challenges and they're not going to be easy for Congress to tackle. All three of your lessons are not easy and they're going to be hugely time consuming.
Oh, yes, I agree. It is easy, as I said, sitting here talking to you and saying what's wrong with the Congress. But the challenges are monumental. I don't think it is easy for any political party to quickly effect a turnaround and become suddenly a different party. So I understand that abstract analysis of the Congress is easy. Concrete practice of changing the party probably is going to take a longer time.
In which case, let me ask you, what are the chances Congress will accept these lessons? And what are the chances nothing will change?
The trouble with the Congress is that nothing changes. It does accept the challenges. I don't think that I am so wise or somebody else is so clever that they have ideas Congress doesn't know about. Politicians, and Congress included, are far too clever and far-sighted than analysts and observers. So they know the challenges. The trouble is the rut, the organizational chaos that they have themselves created is difficult to clean up. It's not a task that just one generation can do. Congress has been in this state of affairs for 2 generations. Remember, give me a minute, an average 50 plus age Congress worker today has actually nothing to do with the Nehru Indira Gandhi Congress. And that is where the challenge for the Congress lies. That they have a new material of workers with them. For them, they have to create a new party and then call it the Congress. That is the huge task for the Congress, for any leader of any caliber.
Is there any Congress leader that shows the will and determination to undertake this task, or is that another problem?
That another problem. I mean, Rahul Gandhi, when he was younger, wanted to create this new Congress. When he became the general secretary, he came up with the idea of party, intra-party elections and whatnot. The party defeated him. Once the party defeated him, the party can't complain that Rahul Gandhi doesn't deliver.
So an opportunity that existed when he was general secretary was lost.
Yeah, they were in power that time. And therefore, they had the support, they had the cushion of extra MPs that time. But it was at that time when the Congress party defeated Rahul Gandhi.
It seems, Professor Palshikar, that Congress is a sorry story without a necessarily easy, happy ending.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the time you've given me. Thank you very much for your insights. Take
Thank
care,
you.
sir. Stay safe.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.